So let's move on to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Mandi Buss. Mandi is a licensed clinical social worker to Gynecologic Oncology and the Urologic Oncology Division at Northwestern Medicine. Mandi will be talking about creating space for joy and hope, utilizing social support and community. Thanks for being here, Mandi.
Hi, thank you so much, and good morning. Very happy to be here. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It looks like we have a nice large group. I'm just pulling up my PowerPoint here. But as Emily said, we are going to be spending a little bit of time talking about resources available to patients, and that's kind of regardless of the point that you're at in treatment. That could be early on in diagnosis, further along in survivorship, women managing advanced disease, and of course, caregivers. My hope is to address a few common themes that might come up along the arc of the trajectory. As you might know, it can be a little overwhelming looking for the right resources, the ones that fit you and your life. There's quite a bit out there, and it can take some time to sift through. So along the way, I'm going to ask that you keep in mind just a few questions as I walk through a curated list of resources that might be useful for your own experience of cancer. The first is, how can I identify areas within myself and my life where I might benefit from additional support? As women, as caregivers navigating cancer, it's not uncommon to feel that inner wish for some help or some support when faced with the significant challenges involved. That general wish might feel a bit overwhelming in itself. The need for help might feel kind of nebulous and shapeless. And maybe when friends or family ask how they can help, it's hard to come up with a concrete answer. Sometimes assessing the different ways your life has been impacted can lead to a clearer picture of exactly what help is needed and what might be most beneficial. But frankly, during times of crisis or high distress, it's hard to take stock objectively and figure out what would actually help in those moments and what you're open to receiving in those moments. So I'd encourage you to lean on the others in your life to help you figure out those needs and pinpoint a few concrete areas where a resource or a person might be able to step in and provide some assistance. So you can lean on close friends, your inner circle, your partner, your oncology social worker, your medical team to kind of help pick apart some of those spots. Once you have a sense of what your needs are, it's also helpful to take a peek at what your most immediate needs might be. As a starting point, I think it's not uncommon to kind of start this journey with a handful of resources and not know where to begin. So I think taking a moment to figure out what is your most urgent need, and it's not always so straightforward. For example, if you find that you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, it might be tough to dive into the practical resources for navigating insurance or financial needs or some of those other issues that feel very, very present and at the forefront. At the same time, to deal with those, you have to be in a place of emotional stability, of kind of some mental clarity to be able to navigate those. So it's okay to start wherever you need to start. And the final question is, who can help me or us identify and access useful tools? On this question, you've gotten quite the head start because here you are this morning for our Survive and Thrive program today. This is an excellent example of one of the many avenues of learning about supports out there and getting a bit of help, considering which tools you want to add to your shed. And at the end of the day, any of these resources that we'll go over, also your connections, your relationships, can serve as those tools. Figure out which ones are worth some space in your shed. That space can be limited, especially when you're dealing with treatment or managing caregiving. Bandwidth can get a little limited, a little constrained, especially when you have a lot going on already. You're ultimately using these tools, though, to tend to the garden that's your life, your coping and your resilience. Doesn't matter what your neighbor has in her shed. Every garden is different, so bear with me on that metaphor. But the tools that might serve someone else and may become highly recommended by someone else, and maybe with some high pressure sales tactics, might not support your specific needs or your personality or your family. And that's okay. So it can take a little time to maybe experiment and see which ones might be useful for your own experience. Before we dive into the kind of the nitty-gritty of the resources out there, I want to touch on kind of a few different facets of life that cancer can impact. So when you're examining those impacts in your own life, I'd encourage you to take a peek at each dimension of wellness. It might be easier to identify a specific need or area where you'd appreciate some help in that regard. So a lot of these facets look pretty obvious on the face of it. You have the physical piece of your wellness that would involve kind of the medical side of things, your treatment, but also your nutrition, your exercise, your physical capacity day to day, your body image, changes in appearance, and of course the emotional, those day-to-day feelings that arise, responses to challenges, sadness, grief, anger, some of the, I think, very important and understandable and healthy reactions to navigating this course. And psychological, some of those underlying aspects of our coping and wellness, our mental health, social and relational, our occupational, dealing with work, and then the ways that our interests and hobbies might be impacted by our experience of cancer. There might be things that brought us joy, that we were really fulfilled by spending energy on, that we're finding are limited in the context of cancer. I'd like to stress that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So if we think about a table as a metaphor for that, you are not, a table isn't a tabletop and 4 separate legs. It's all of those pieces connected together. In the case of your wellness, when we're looking at these different dimensions, any of those dimensions could be a leg of that table. And when it's impacted, the table is going to get a little wobbly because this is one piece of your whole system of who you are and how you move through the world. When the table is steady, you're going to find more space for joy and hope, more space to access that satisfaction in your life, despite any challenges or uncertainty. So my hope is that today we can cover a few resources that can provide some temporary support under a wobbly leg and support your wellness overall. All right, so that's enough of the preamble. Let me tell you a little bit about what's out there. I think sometimes a useful place to start is a resource to manage all of the social resources. Many women caregivers might be fortunate enough to have a large social support network. Maybe they're near or far, and this can come with its own challenges. Not challenges that we're not grateful for, but challenges all the same. I'd like to use these 2 organizations as an example. CaringBridge and Lots of Helping Hands are 2 commonly used platforms that make it easier to communicate with anyone who wants to keep tabs on how you're doing, and also delegate some tasks, line up help or line up meals. Privacy is always an option here. So unlike social media, you're able to keep a smaller circle of chosen people informed and involved without fielding countless phone calls, emails, and visits. It can take some of the awkwardness or overwhelm out of the "how can I help" exchange, and maybe make it easier to accept the help from others. Sometimes the management of these platforms, whether you've created a CaringBridge page or a Lots of Helping Hands calendar, it also doesn't have to be managed by you or your caregiver. That task can also be delegated out, but these are 2 tools that can make the kind of the whole process a little bit easier and smoother. And whether your circle of support, your group of friends, your family, your community is very large or very small, Gynecologic cancer can feel isolating at times, especially if no one shares the same experience. It's possible that even friends with cancer can't quite relate to experiences with gynecologic cancer because it comes with its own unique challenges and impacts. And that's whether you're the patient or the caregiver. This is where peer support, whether it's through mentorship or support groups, can make a difference. So let's start with the peer mentorship programs. There are a couple, these types of programs connect people with cancer, and some of these also work with caregivers as well, but connecting people with a trained peer mentor. So this would be someone who's walked a similar path with cancer before. Usually they're looking at diagnosis type, treatment type, and several other factors of your life, of your culture, of your personality, so that you're ideally provided with a meaningful contact. There are many potential benefits here. The support goes one way. So versus a friendship where there's that reciprocal flow of support and connection, you don't need to reciprocate. Here's someone who's experienced guidance and support you can lean on while you manage the uncertainties that pop up. Peer mentor's role is being there for you in those moments. And there can be some great comfort in that, and then also some hope as you're looking forward and trying to get a sense of what the shape of the future is. There are quite a few mentorship programs out there, but I'd like to focus on these two for just a second. So Immerman Angels is based in Chicago. It's now nationwide. They have a large pool of mentors and mentees. They carefully match mentors and mentees, and the amount of contact is definitely driven by the mentor. So I work with some folks who have opted for maybe 1 or 2 phone calls that they have found to be meaningful, and that was the end of their road with Immerman Angels. They didn't need anything further. And then I've had others who have really benefited from ongoing contact and have maintained that connection over time. And for Immerman Angels, they also connect caregivers, which I really want to highlight here. So if you are caring for someone with a gynecologic cancer as a partner, as a family member, friend, this is a way to connect with somebody who understands that role, understands kind of the complicated nature of caring for someone and only being able to do so much, and holding those pieces and holding that worry and uncertainty alongside the person who's navigating treatment. The Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance has a similar type of peer mentorship program. It's called Woman to Woman. Despite the organization's name, this is open to women dealing with any gynecologic cancer diagnosis. OCRA has a virtual program where you can reach out through their website to be connected with a mentor. And there are also countless local W2W programs hosted by hospitals and clinics across the country. So for example, here at the Lurie Cancer Center at Northwestern downtown, we have a W2W chapter here. And for some individuals, I think there can be great value in connecting with a mentor who has navigated the same hospital, the same medical teams, for having that overlap in shared experience. A unique aspect of the Woman to Woman program is that they also host opportunities to gather as a larger group for socializing and connection, getting all of the mentors and mentees together as an opportunity to, I think, engage in that connection in an even deeper way. Another facet of the social support is connecting with cancer resource centers. They're a wonderful avenue of getting plugged into a community of people who, quote unquote, get it. And the cool thing is that you can connect at whatever level you need, whatever level you're comfortable with. So these centers, of course, host support programs, support groups, sometimes by diagnosis or treatment stage, and sometimes by concern. So navigating survivorship or getting support as a caregiver. In recent years, there's also been a growing recognition of the unique experience of women of color as they navigate care, women who are Spanish speaking, and the programming at these cancer resource centers certainly reflects that recognition. You'll find more specific groups dedicated to creating space for discussion, support, and connection around some pretty specific aspects of the treatment experience or the cancer experience overall. And for some folks, a support group isn't quite the type of connection they benefit from. Cancer resource centers also offer countless other programs and opportunities to be with a group of people who understand the impact of cancer. So for many people, taking a virtual gentle yoga class or meditation or Tai Chi or an arts and crafts class or a networking group or workshop or seminar or lecture, it can make that experience more meaningful to know that you are sharing that time with other people who have faced similar types of challenges, who are navigating similar types of uncertainty. Each group, each gathering, every organization is going to have its own feel and dynamic, but you can dip a toe in and see how it feels. There are a few local cancer resource centers that I'd like to highlight. I think it's useful to consider the location for starters, and then also their program offerings. One of the silver linings, perhaps, of the times we're living in now is that so many of these programs are available virtually. For example, Gilda's Club Chicago, their entire program, their entire calendar is virtual and online right now, which means that no matter where you live, no matter where you're treated, it's easy to access this programming from the comfort of your home. And I do think there can be some wonderful safety in trying this out, in checking out a support group, which might have felt kind of intimidating or overwhelming in the past, having an opportunity to kind of check it out from the safety of your home, see if it's a good fit, and if it's not, let it go. But then if it is, be able to move forward with that connection. So we also have a Living Well. This is part of Northwestern Medicine. It's a cancer resource center located in Geneva. Wellness House has multiple locations throughout Chicagoland, but they are primarily based in Hinsdale. Wellness House has a pretty remarkable program guide, a very robust offering of services, especially for Spanish-speaking patients and families, but a very comprehensive exercise schedule, stress management and wellness schedule. And what you'll find is that many of these centers also offer short-term counseling and connection. So there's always someone at these locations that you can connect with to figure out how you want to get plugged in and where you want to connect. We have the Cancer Wellness Center, which is located up north in Northbrook and Grayslake, the Cancer Support Center in Homewood, and the Cancer Resource Center in Munster, Indiana. I think it's worth giving a nod here to the way that gynecologic cancer can impact our self-image, changes in our appearance, body. On the face of it, I've heard a number of women almost apologizing for feeling grief around those changes when this is truly, it's a piece of our identity, and it can be, I think, disorienting and distressing to look in the mirror and not feel familiar with who you're seeing there. There are a few programs out there that can support you in managing those changes, and hopefully give you a little piece of that confidence back, that I'd like to highlight here. Look Good, Feel Better is a nationwide program. They offer virtual workshops on beauty techniques. They have a program finder, a beauty guide, some pretty excellent support for managing some of those common physical impacts of care. Sephora also offers a Brave Beauty in the Face of Cancer class for confidence that I've had a few patients check out that they've really enjoyed, where you can get some tips and tools for managing some of those common concerns, common changes that might have shaken your sense of self a little bit as you're moving through treatment or recovering from treatment. we'll touch base in a moment on how to locate wig and head cover resources. This is one where the landscape is kind of ever changing, but whether it's connecting with your oncology social work or exploring some online databases to find those resources, that's another, I think, piece of this that we can look at. Bear with me, I feel like this slide covers some of the most logistically stressful pieces of care, and it's also a little word heavy. So I'd like to highlight Triage Cancer. They provide free education and information on the practical legal issues that arise after a cancer diagnosis. So this includes kind of, I think, a lot of the hot concrete topics like disability insurance, Medicare, health insurance, estate planning, finances, employment issues, and more. They have a number of quick guides and checklists that can be really useful in navigating these challenges that come up. And I think oftentimes the emotional piece we feel prepared to deal with in some way, but these financial, legal, and practical issues can feel very cumbersome to navigate. If you're feeling that way, I'd encourage you to look into any of these resources to kind of find a little bit of a grounding, a little bit of information and clarification as you're dealing with these cumbersome systems. Triage Cancer offers a legal and financial navigation program for one-on-one support. So if you're navigating specific issues, specific questions, whether it's about Social Security, disability, or maybe navigating some legal workplace challenges as you're dealing with FMLA or returning to work and needing accommodations, this is a great way to get plugged in for some additional guidance. And as we know, cancer happens in the midst of kind of everyday regular life and all that is already there. For many people, a piece of that life is employment and navigating employment during treatment or trying to figure out leave or figure out your rights as an employee while you're going through care. This extends to survivorship as well. Thinking about the potential flexibilities you'll need as you continue to recover, or the ways that your life might have been changed in the long term by going through this experience. So Cancer and Careers offers expert advice, interactive tools, educational events, with the goal of empowering and supporting you so that you can thrive in the workplace. They cover all of the topics that I had just mentioned, including other issues like considering early retirement and other financial concerns, or people who have been out of the workforce for a time due to cancer who are looking to re-enter the workforce and don't know how to disclose that during interviews, or how to craft a resume that reflects their time away from work in a sensitive way. And finally, Cancer Cares, a helping hand, a resource guide for cancer patients, is a fantastic database where you can search all the local and national resources and filter by diagnosis type, location, and need. Specific areas of need include copays, financial assistance, food, wigs, transportation, equipment, a lot of the nuts and bolts of navigating care. Cancer Care also offers some incredible information about managing the financial toxicity of treatment, which as a phrase has gotten more popular over the past decade as more people recognize that cancer has impacts beyond just the cost of care. There are so many indirect costs, the way your life is impacted by getting to and from the hospital, or managing loss of income. And as far as insurance and Medicare, this is something we could potentially spend an entire day talking about. So I want to briefly highlight that every state has a free financial counseling program to help people age 60 and over select Medicare plans. They can help you kind of assess your needs based on your medications, your treatment plans, some of those anticipated needs. As far as insurance in general, that can always be a tricky space to navigate. It never hurts to start with your oncology social worker or even your government's healthcare marketplace to get some more information and support about plans that might benefit you. And last but not least, make use of your clinic supports. The nice thing about oncology social work is that it can be a good starting point, not just for getting emotional support, but also because we can serve as a bit of a switchboard, helping you figure out where to start and connecting you with the right internal and external resources. Hospitals and clinics offer very rich programming to support a patient's wellness, to support the health of a family. That's everything from health psychology to psychiatry to nutrition, tobacco cessation, financial counseling, sexual health, chaplaincy and spiritual care, integrative medicine, and palliative medicine. There's no shortage of help available out there. I think oftentimes it's a matter of figuring out where to start and how to access it. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask someone to help you get plugged in. I know this has been a lot of information, quite a few resources to touch on today. And we didn't even cover the tip of the iceberg. So please feel free to let me know, reach out with questions if there are things I can assist with along the way. It was a privilege spending time with you this morning. And I hope some of these resources and offerings pique some interest or sound like they might be useful along the way for your experience. Thank you.